So I was away in Bali recently, and I've been reflecting on these types of processes and ideas around, reading your goals daily, or a vision board, or reading affirmations, or traits that you want to embody. And the thing is, you can have the ideology of like, I'm going to do that. But then even if you do that, you realize, oh, there's a thing you can do. Like, oh, maybe I should visualize. Maybe I should write affirmations. Maybe I should have these goals. And you start to recognize that over time, there's so many things you need to do. And then also, if you're like, I've got to read it every day. And there's the time sequence. And from my direct experience, it's damn hard. It's damn hard to do that. And, you do it, and then sooner or later, you're like, I need to update it. And then it's out of date. And you're like, oh, but am I doing this? It's out of date. If you know what I mean, it's basically like, have you written down your goals? Even if you know your goals, which is a huge thing. And secondly, you read them daily. Are you writing down the traits that you want to have? Are you writing down the affirmations? Are you writing down your rituals? And are you doing the rituals? You know what I mean? It's just like, it never ends. It never ends. It never ends. But I've been exercising with this new idea recently. Rather than what I've noticed is that it's usually a top-down approach in your life. So whatever you identify as, your identity will start to fill roles. So like if you identify as very successful and you actually feel it in your nervous system, you'll start to do successful activities. Or if you identify as a CEO, you'll do CEO activities. It's very interesting how the power of identity affects your ego, and then your ego affects your action. So how does this actually make your life better? Well, I've been thinking about the idea of traits, and I like to write down traits that I want to embody, or just even remind myself I have, because I'm one of those people that I'm like, oh, I'm not that confident. And then I'm out about talking to people all the time. And then people are like, you're so chatty. I'm like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, well, why do I not feel that? I'm like, because I want to have this idea of that I'm confident, like a prime minister or like a president type of confidence doing, like speaking like that. It's wild. It's uncalibrated thinking. But what I've been thinking about recently is exercising the idea of, that comes from this idea of traits. Like, what traits do I want to have? And traits, because I realize when I embody traits, then action manifests from it naturally. But I also realize that anything that I want to become also becomes a limitation, because I'm like, I want to create like these 5 things. I want to be more charismatic and more outgoing, whatever it is. But then if I'm focused on that, maybe I'm missing out on being peaceful, zen, flowing, intuitive, whatever it is. And then like those are more things that I feel like I'm missing out on. So I flipped it on its head, and I've done this thing which I'm like, what traits will I not enable in myself? So because I have so many wonderful traits and so many more traits that the famous investor Charlie Munger said, use this thing called inverse thinking, basically going, rather than going, what do I want? Go, what don't I want? And then just figure out what you don't want, and then figure out the opposite of it. But more importantly, just don't do those things. And this inverse thinking was around the inverse thinking of traits. And I'm thinking, well, my life is good when it's good, but when it's like not good, what traits am I embodying? Because it's always an inside job out. So the traits I recognize for myself, and I started noting it down. Actually, I'll bring up my notes right now. With things like, and these are probably my main one is frustration. I don't get angry, but I just get frustrated. So I notice like that's a trait, frustration. A trait I feel is tired. Like it's not a physiological thing. It's more like a trait where I'm like, I'm tired. A trait of pettiness. A trait of feeling overwhelmed. A trait of having too many things to do. Traits of being overstimulated. The trait of consuming a lot, like videos. The trait of talking too much. Who would have thought? The trait of being closed off, like emotion, like just closing off, and then the trait of being judgmental. Now, they're not wonderful things to say about yourself, but I recognize they're the things that actually, the average of who I am is the average of the amazing traits and the average of the lower traits. So I wanted to identify and be aware of these anti-traits. Well, they're traits, but like the anti moving towards them. And I just wrote them down and I've acknowledged them. And by bringing the awareness to them, one thing is you can't work on something or process it if it's unconscious. Lower states tend to be unconscious states. Like no one goes, yeah, I want to be petty. Like I idolize it. So it's these processes, by writing them down, they started to come up to awareness. And then I just started to see throughout my day, I'm being frustrated right now, or a bit overstimulated or whatever. And what I've noticed, and I've done this in my company with my team with a few gaps with clients, is that when you bring the attention to it or the awareness, number one, they start to resolve, because usually things that are unconscious are unconscious. Therefore, nothing happens. But once you bring awareness or consciousness to them, they're not unconscious anymore, they're conscious. And then usually when consciousness is on things, they start to improve. Because if you're a good person or a great person or a successful person, you'll naturally unconsciously, again, make it better. So I've noticed over the last week since doing this, or last few weeks, my frustration has gone down probably down to 5%. My pettiness down is down to 1%. Overstimulation is down. Consuming, all these things have been significantly down because I wrote down all the traits that I was I can't, they're suffering traits. And as a successful high achiever, you want to ensure that you're achieving. I want to be successful, outgoing, good at sales, all these things. And you're oh, this, but you've got all these, this baggage behind you that's slowing you down. But it's rather than focusing on this, why wouldn't you just clip the bag or the burden that's behind you? And then you'll naturally keep moving in that way. Because the thing about being a high achiever is you always are moving forward. The problem is how much shit is holding you back. So it's about you'll keep moving forward. I know that about myself. Even though I'm once if I start stagnating, it's never happened. And it's probably never going to happen, which to much of my dismay, I really wish one day I was yeah, I'm just chill. I'm good with this. But now it's more focusing on bringing awareness to traits of self or identity that if you remove them or reduce them would speed up the way you're moving. So how do you make this practical right now? Start doing some self-awareness work. Just ask yourself, what traits are inside of me right now, or do I experience, not inside of me, what traits am I experiencing that are not serving me? I'll start with, it could be anger, it could be pettiness, it could be overwhelm, it could be being too busy, it could be the trait of checking your phone too much or email or whatever it is, being judgmental. And just write it down. Write it down. Please write it down, because that's where it happens. And just notice if you read every day anti-traits or moving away from traits, you're not going to manifest it, because it's already manifesting. When things are in the unconscious, they manifest. When something comes into the consciousness, it manifests less. So by bringing awareness to this, you'll start to notice throughout the day you catching yourself out, and you'll catch yourself out and you'll break the pattern in the moment. Now, you could go to the next level, and I attempted to do it, but I didn't follow through with it, where I'm okay, when I'm frustrated, what could I do? When I'm overstimulated, what do I do? And I could be put the phone away, go for a walk. You can do the how is not as important as the what. The what is what is going on, and then how do I move away from it? But just bring awareness to it and see what happens. I'm talking about this for 8 minutes, but this could literally change your your amazing life. Because let's just say that you're an amazing partner, like I am to my partner, but she goes, Michael, you are so amazing, you are so light energy, but sometimes you just get so manic and so frustrated or overstimulated, not frustrated her, but just frustrated with things, that it just feels like it just sucks the energy away at times. So I'm fuck, these lower states, even though you experience it maybe 1 to 5% of your life, maybe 50%, some people it's actually 80%, even if it's a small amount, it ruins the experience of your life. You could be the best person of your life, doing amazing things, doing charity, and then one day you could just be on your phone driving and then you hit someone. You don't get rewarded for all the good things you get in life. You just get punished for the bad things, socially and emotionally. Whatever you do, the goal is to reduce these traits, because these are the direct experience not only other people are having, but you're having of your own life. So why wouldn't you just want to go far out? These things are just making me suffer. Therefore, if I bring some awareness to it, maybe the light on them would make it better, and I free myself. So the goal of this channel is to get to 1 million subscribers to share simple, practical ways to bring more peace and well-being as a high achiever, myself and ideally you. And these are processes that I do myself that work. I'm running a 7-figure company. I've got a team. I've got a lot of responsibilities. I've got other things in my life. And these are the things that I'm reflecting on every day, but more importantly, doing and sharing the direct experience. Your experience of this will be different. You might write it down. You're dude, after writing it down, it just disappeared forever. I'd be jealous if you did that. And sometimes you're like, that didn't work. I had to like write down like what I could do. Then I had to schedule it in, and then I did some hypnosis on it, whatever it is. But you can't solve these problems without becoming aware of it. And you want to become aware because no one wants to be unaware that they're frustrated most of the time. That doesn't serve you. Being unconscious of it doesn't mean you don't experience it. It means you're just experiencing it without being aware of it. So I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Enjoy.